About 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day, Katie Greifeld and Bailey Lipschultz. He's in for Romaine Bostick. And here to help take us through the closing bell, we're joined by a global simulcast, Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec. We welcome all of our various audiences on the Bloomberg platforms now. And Carol, you take a look at this market ripping higher on the final day of the month and the quarter. Traders thinking, maybe there is an end in sight.
Yeah, maybe there is. At least, from the latest headlines, there's some optimism. We constantly, I feel like, see this when there's even a glimmer of good news. Investors, certainly in the equity markets, looking for a reason to buy. Having said that, I'm just going to pull up the S&P 500 when it comes to the month. We're down about 5% on the S&P 500, Tim.
Okay. On the month.
Hate to be a bummer. Sorry.
Kind of like that you went there. Down on the S&P 500 for the year, 4.7%. So that's how it's looking. Hey, Bailey, do you remember Friday we made such a big deal? The Nasdaq 100 went into a correction down 10% from a recent all-time high. Do you remember that?
I do. I was not in for Romaine then, but I remember you're a big fan of technical corrections and what the market structure shows.
You did join us, though,
that was
on the day on Bloomberg Business Week Daily. And it was a big deal. And it happened again yesterday. It was still there. No longer in a correction if we close where it is now, down just about 9% from those October highs.
Well, we're about 30 seconds away from the close on the day. So unless something crazy happens. But I mean, you guys make a good point. It has been a very ugly month. And there's still, plenty of, holes digging still left to go. I'm trying to mix metaphors. It's really hard. Let's talk about all the green on the screen, though. That's a nice distraction. The S&P 500 going to finish about 3% higher on the day. The Nasdaq even more so. You're seeing a lot of the bid coming into some of the most beaten down names. That includes the chip names, your tech stocks as well. The Dow getting in on the action as well. It's going to finish about 2.5% higher. We're also going to show the Russell 2000 as well. Really, every part of the equity market rallied today, it feels like, Carol.
Yeah, absolutely. Broad-based buying. So if you dip back into the S&P 500, folks, 419 names gaining on this Tuesday as we wrapped up the month and wrapped up the first quarter of 2026. Bailey, 83 to the downside, 1 unchanged.
Yeah, and looking at it on an industry basis, we've got 9 of the 11 sectors trading higher today. Look at that communication services rally, up more than 4%, as was infotech. Your laggards, though, energy obviously down, with oil and utilities down about 0.1%.
All right, so let's go to some of the individual gainers, if I may. 2 names I want to pull up. Marvell Technology and NVIDIA, both gaining in today's session. In fact, Marvell, I believe it was the top gainer in the Nasdaq 100 today. NVIDIA taking a $2 billion stake in Marvell Technology, opening up its system to allow Marvell to integrate custom artificial intelligence chips and networking equipment on the platform. So the two agreeing to collaborate on the development of silicon photonics, which use light instead of traditional copper wiring to move data faster and more efficiently. And I'm going to assume that might be a little bit cheaper. So anyway, you've got Marvell Technology up almost 13% in today's session, probably some general euphoria also helping out that trade. Same story for NVIDIA, up about 5.6% in today's session. All right, so we saw a big market move, in fact, straight up. Was it around midday or 1:30?
Yeah, just in the 12 to 1 o'clock hour.
Okay, thank you. And that was after Iran's president said the country had the necessary will to end this war, but expected certain requirements to be met according to the state-run IRA. But anyway, you saw a lot of consumer discretionary names to the upside. So if you look at the S&P Composite Consumer Discretionary Index, you saw that index rallying today. And then you take a look at some of the travel and consumer names. American Airlines, first of all, the discretionary group, up about 3.25%. If you go on over to some of the airlines, American up 5.5%. You had Delta up about 5.25%. And then you look at the S&P Super Composite Airline Index as a whole, up almost 6%. So again, some enthusiasm. Maybe energy prices are going to come down. People are going to go back to traveling. So that was something of a bright spot. And then I just want to, go.
I was just going to ask, is my flight that I haven't booked going to be cheaper yet, or do I have to wait longer?
I think you're going to be paying the money.
Yeah, get ready. One more name on semiconductor. This too was a top name in the Nasdaq 100. Caixin Global over in China. reporting out that U.S. power semiconductor maker ON Semi said it will establish a Greater China headquarters in Shanghai and invest about $50 million in the country over the next 3 years, stepping up local decision-making and investment as demand rises from EVs, renewable energy, and AI data centers. So the company announcing that move earlier today in Shanghai. So that was certainly an outperformer, up more than 11%, Tim.
All right, let's look at some underperformers today. Let's start with energy. Energy stocks dropped. What?
Oh, wow.
Wah, wah, wah.
Allbirds. Who
All
would
right.
guess that?
Yeah. Sorry, Tim.
Did you just get rid of it?
I don't even know what's going on here anymore. I don't even know what's going on.
You only picked losers today, Tim.
I don't even know what's going on anymore.
Man.
All right, here we go.
How about some
start that
energy
again.
stocks?
Let's start with energy stocks. This is the entire S&P energy index. Fell today by more than 1%. We had big declines in companies like ExxonMobil, Chevron, EOG Resources, ConocoPhillips, Phillips 66, Valero, Occidental, Devon, and more. I just decided to do the entire index. It did fall for the reason that Carol talked about. Airline stocks higher today. Iran's president saying the country had the necessary will to end the war, and that is why we saw a rally in pretty much everything except for energy. This index, though, up 37% so far this year. A lot of M&A news today. I had to narrow it down to just one or two companies to talk about. McCormick & Co., the spice maker, down more than 6%. This after Unilever agreed to combine its food business with McCormick's in a $44.8 billion deal. It'll create a global seasonings, sauces, and condiments company. Under the agreement, McCormick will pay Unilever $15.7 billion in the equivalent of $29.1 billion in McCormick shares for most of Unilever's food business, leaving Unilever and its shareholders with 65% of the combined entity.
All birds, all birds,
wanna do
all
all
birds,
birds?
all
I want
birds.
to hear what happened.
The
Yes.
stock was down double digits today, but I guess it ended the day higher. But Katie, you go ahead and do treasuries. We can talk about
right.
Allbirds
What
later.
might as
Isn't it
well.
kind of sad, though? R.I.P. All birds.
Yeah.
Remember they were such a big deal?
They were really hot for a moment in time.
Yeah,
We do have some breaking news, though. Do you guys want to talk about it?
Sure.
OpenAI. This is a red headline crossing the Bloomberg terminal right now. OpenAI valued at $852 billion. That's after closing a $122 billion round. That is according to Bloomberg reporting. And I mean, we're talking about ginormous numbers here, Bailey. And OpenAI, of course, is one of the names that's speculated that could go public this year, part of a very special cohort.
Yeah, one of the three we're watching alongside Anthropic and SpaceX. Our reporting shows that SpaceX would probably be the first of the three, with OpenAI looking at probably later in the year, maybe the fourth quarter. Just want to call out, though, $122 billion is not a small raise. That's not something that we had seen before, Carol.
Yeah, financing coming from several large tech companies. You might know their name: Amazon, NVIDIA, SoftBank Group, and there's a long list of other prominent backers. So, yeah, they're all kind of getting a piece of this.
Yeah, Andreessen Horowitz, Abu Dhabi's MGX, DE Shaw Ventures. In a first for the company, too, OpenAI raised more than $3 billion from individual investors through bank channels. The startup said it will be included in several ETFs managed by Cathie Wood's ARK Invest, the goal of offering more people exposure to the AI
Did you
firm.
get the $3 billion from individual
I
investors,
did, yeah.
too? Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
That is interesting.
That is-
Did you all get a piece of that?
You know, it is part of a growing trend, though.
Katie didn't say no. Just kidding.
I'm a journalist. Anyway, it is part of a growing trend, which, you know, we've been covering. I know that Bailey covers it closely as well from the desk, too, that, you know, retail investors have been getting more involved on the IPO side of things. And a lot of companies have sort of catered to that demand.
Yeah, we've seen SpaceX reportedly looking to earmark potentially 30% of a $75 billion deal. So that's north of $20 billion. And Katie, to your point, we've been seeing a number of closed-end funds or other ways just to gamble or invest, have some form of exposure or perceived exposure to some of these big tech companies, Carol.
All right, I'm going to shift gears, and I'm thinking about tomorrow. It's April Fool's Day. We're going to kick off the second quarter. We have President Trump having a meeting today at 5. I just wonder if we're going to get anything more on the war that kind of shifts the enthusiasm that we certainly saw in the equity trade today.
The energy trade not necessarily seeing the same enthusiasm that the equity trade did. Sure, we did see oil fall as a result of this, Katie, but we're still over $100 a barrel, both on WTI and on Brent. Ellen Wald at Transversal telling us she thinks that Brent should be significantly more expensive per barrel than it is where it is right now.
I am really interested to see how it all settles when it comes to that cross-asset picture there. Obviously today, straight up euphoria when it comes to the equity market. You didn't see as big of a move when it comes to Brent, though, and you didn't see as big of a move when it comes to the bond market as well. A lot of the action was focused on equities. So, it's going to be interesting to see whether it's sort of a delayed reaction when it comes to oil, when it comes to treasuries, or maybe, some of that enthusiasm drains a little bit from the equity market.
Yeah, it's a really good point. We'll see what kind of follow through we get tomorrow.